All right, the next physical region of Canada that we're going to explore is the one that we live in, the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Lowlands. It is in terms of size, it is a small region, but in terms of the amount of people that live there, it's the biggest region. It's got the most people in Canada, all kind of stuffed into this small pocket of land. And you might be curious, like, why is that? Why do we have so many people in such a huge country live in these just a small area? And hopefully we'll get to the bottom of that as we get through some of this information. So there are 3 pages, just like on all the other regions. And in this video, I'm going to take you through kind of one page at a time. So this is the introduction page. It starts off by saying, "These Great Lakes St. Lawrence Lowlands has low, flat land and small hills. The region extends across Ontario and Quebec, but it is just the bottom southern part of those provinces. The Great Lakes St. Lawrence Lowlands contains low flat land and small hills. It starts at the peninsula of southern Ontario and stretches along the St. Lawrence River to the Atlantic Ocean. This area is known for being a smaller physical region of Canada for its industrialization and agriculture." So these are 2 big words. Industrialization, what that means is development of cities and maybe like the jobs that come along with living near a city. So we've got lots of jobs in the service industry and manufacturing of different types of things. And then agriculture, we are talking about farming. So really, and these 2 things, they both require a lot of land. So it's an interesting conflict often, is how does the land get used? And more we see farmland further developed for more housing and for stretching out these cities to become even bigger. And a lot of people would argue that farmland is more important to just be used as farmland. So it's definitely one of those areas where different people have different ideas about how the land should be used. It's also home to Niagara Falls, which is one of Canada's largest waterfalls. The Great Lakes St. Lawrence Lowlands contains very fertile soil, which makes it ideal for farming. What are some reasons why someone might move to the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Lowlands to live? It's one, think about a question. And the second one is, why do you think an environmental group would be concerned with the building of large cities in the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Lowlands? So put your environmentalist hat on. Why would you be concerned about these huge cities being built on this land? So you're going to want to think about things like habitat and impacts on wildlife, impacts on in terms of pollution. So we want to think about how cities negatively impact the environment and how we can, things that we would be concerned about. Second assignment here, like our other ones, focuses on the climate and weather. It reads, "The Great Lakes St. Lawrence Lowlands climate varies depending on the location and season. The summer is associated with hot, humid weather, and this can lead to thunderstorms and tornadoes. Winters are cold with snowy and icy conditions. Temperatures can reach below negative 30 degrees Celsius. We know that. We get some cold days in the winter." It says blizzards and ice storms are common during the winter. Temperatures are typically higher in the south of this physical region. The southernmost point is the closest point in Canada to the equator. List each of the Great Lakes below. The first letter of the Great Lakes spells the word homes. So homes is kind of like an acrostic poem or an acronym for remembering the 5 Great Lakes. If you do not know them, you may need to look them up in a map. What are some of the challenges of having a climate that varies from being very hot to very cold? There's your think about it question for this page. So what are some of the challenges in the place that we live? Like, we have a super hot summer and a very cold winter. We have 4 seasons. What are some of the challenges that go along with that? Think about your connections to your life and where you live. Think about how that can be challenging. Final page is about work, life and work. It reads, "The Great Lakes St. Lawrence Lowlands contains both rural and urban areas. So those might be new words for you, and we'll define them here. Rural areas are areas that are outside of major cities. These areas are an ideal place for farming due to the nutrient-rich soil. However, most of the population lives in urban areas, which are areas inside of cities like Montreal and Toronto. They're two of the largest cities found in the Great Lakes St. Lawrence area. If we think of where we live, we've got our city area, which is kind of made up of Cambridge, Kitchener, Waterloo, where most of us live. But we also have some rural areas. We might think about the outside of the city areas. I know some of you live in Wellesley. Even though there are quite a few people that live there, we might still consider that a bit of a rural area because there is lots of farmland and farming going around kind of outside of that area. Despite the small geographic size of this region, it contains 50% of Canada's entire population. Right? That's what I was talking about at the beginning. It says this area is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Wenro. So these are the first peoples that lived in our area. Haudenosaunee, also know the Anishinaabe, is a First Nations group that also traditionally used our territory that we currently live in. So these are kind of the three main jobs, or just three areas of work that people might work in. When you get into the St. Lawrence, Great Lakes, St. Lawrence Lowlands, there are actually a lot of different industries. Because we have such big cities, there are a lot of different types of jobs that you can explore and you can have when you get old enough to start working. So in agriculture, we're saying the rich soil makes this region very attractive to farmers. Soy, oats, corn, and wheat are heavily farmed in this area. Manufacturing, this region has many factories that make use of the natural resources from this region and the Canadian Shield. For example, steel is produced in Hamilton, Ontario. So a lot of the resources that may be harvested in the Canadian Shield could then be transported to manufacturing plants in the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Lowlands region, where those resources are turned into the things that we use. And finally, tourism. Tourists do visit the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Lowlands to explore the unique lakes and waterfalls. Many people enjoy exploring the features and amenities in the major cities, such as the CN Tower in Toronto. So Toronto and Montreal are big cities, and they are places where people like to visit because there's a lot of different things you can do in those big cities. Think about a question here is, what are the benefits of tourism to a region, and what are some of the drawbacks? It's kind of an interesting question to think about during pandemic times. So what are good things about visitors coming and visiting our region, and what are some of the negative things? What could be something that is not good about a whole bunch of people from somewhere else coming to visit maybe a city that you live in? Lots to think about, lots to learn. Kind of cool to get an opportunity to think about your home region in Canada.